can't be bought or sold. Why do they hide the ball? The lies which are spoken and stories told will be their downfall. On the road, traveling for truth, a journey unknown. From ocean sides to the center lines, we'll find the answers never shown. Never shown. The shadows loom, we plant a seed. The sun comes up and the flowers bloom. Truth shall be freed. A journey unknown. From ocean sides to the center lines, we'll find the answers never shown.
All right, welcome to A Crimes After Dark, and I still get jazzed up with that music when they play that. Both those songs kick so much ass, and I know my team still, after a million times listening to it, we all like are jamming backstage to it. And look, we've got more music to come. We'll have more video footage to air to that music. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us on a Friday night. It's Friday Night Fuckery for those who. Oh, I said it too early. I'm supposed to wait like 5 minutes before you drop my first F bomb. Oh well, maybe they didn't get it because it wasn't the actual like root word of the F bomb. It was like whatever. Point being is that we're going to bring our panelist on here shortly. Anything kind of goes on a Friday night. We'll take open questions and answers. After tonight's show, I want you to be invited to join myself, and maybe we'll even get Dago and JJ and others in there. I'm not sure how late they want to stay up, but I have an alternate channel called The Devil's Advocates Beyond, and I'm going to do my first live stream of paranormal type stuff, and that's more outside of our true crime show. If you want to join us on that, we'll post that link during tonight's show. All right, let's get the panel. It looks like there's a cat behind Robin already, so that starts out early. Robin, how you doing? Let's get Dago up here as well.
Right.
Let's get JJ up here as well. How's everybody doing tonight?
Okay.
Good. What's up, everybody?
Good.
I'm living the dream.
Whoa.
Yeah, it is.
That's
Yeah.
the crime
And
cat.
the cat keeps attacking stuff outside the window. We get to see his ass a lot. So.
Yes. They like showing their ass.
Yeah.
They like lifting
Yeah.
their tail, and every cat I've ever seen, but anywhere near the camera, they spin it around and say,
Look at my butt.
look at my boo boo. Yeah.
Look at my butt.
Yeah.
I've got such a nice butt.
Trying to see what that. Will you stop?
It's like, but mom, I gotta get him.
So, anyways, yeah, you guys have any things you want to share? Today was pretty low key for me. I spent some time on the alt channel doing a video over there because I haven't done anything since I got back from Vegas. So, of course, I did the video that I put out. Shit, was it this morning that I put a video out about CrimeCon? Was that? Yeah, fuck it. All my days run together. Maybe it was yesterday.
Yesterday.
That was yesterday. And
That was
yesterday
yesterday.
was the CrimeCon video. Today was the alt channel's video on my experiences with some of that kind of stuff. So anyways, welcome to the show. By the way, I did finish. It's kind of true crime related, but maybe for the other channel, I did finish Oh, no, I got half of one episode. A series on Paramount called 11 Minutes about the Las Vegas shooting. I'm on the last episode. I got like 20 minutes, 30 minutes left to go to finish the 4-part series on that, just to kind of get myself boned up on the highlights of it, right? And then we're going to dive into that probably some more. So I might save that for the alt channel because it's going to kind of get into all those conspiracy theories about whether or not there was people shooting from helicopters and whether there was more than one shooter, whether it's some kind of grand conspiracy where they were lied to about the single shooter kind of thing, and what would those alternate ideas be. But it's a little bit outside of this channel, so we'll save that. But maybe even tonight when we get into the whole thing, maybe we can have a premise or a preview discussion about that. But yeah, do you guys have any major news that happened? I know, Dago, you said you were covering the grand jury testimony a little bit, but the day before or whatever. And
Yesterday, yeah, I did all. Jesus, I did the grand jury testimony. I did the Aaron Williams interview. All those interviews that dropped underneath the bushy eyebrow document. I went through all of those interviews. Dude, I'm telling you, I've never in my life. I actually got lucky because I had Tomboy at one point helping me playing Dylan, and then I had Kim
that's cool.
from Typically Unique playing Dylan, and I was playing the other parts. We were reading back and forth because I think it's easier to understand.
Yeah.
And that, you guys, I had never in my life, like, there were certain things I couldn't even say. It just burst me in. I burst into laughter immediately. I mean, there's so many stupid things said in this. It can't be. None of it can be truth. Okay, people are stupid, but really, come on. Like, it was ridiculous. And I think Dylan, Dylan from Hildreth Investigates comes on my panel a lot. And he counted it out. I think he said that in the one interview, the word "like" was used 47 times.
Oh, wow. Like, that's a lot of times to use the word "like," right?
And those are filler words too. So it points to the fact that throughout the one interview, guys, it's so bad. You can tell that it's all lies being made up as she goes along. Meaning what she's saying, like, this shit never happened. At some point, she's just throwing things out of nowhere. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And why is that okay with so many people? Like, why is it okay?
Right.
why is it okay with so many people? And why do people get
Yeah.
shamed for bringing up how bad it is?
I had
Yeah.
somebody in my chat that was sticking up for her saying it was a traumatic experience. Are
Right?
you,
I've seen a lot of people go through traumatic experiences. They don't talk like that.
bro?
So anyway,
Nothing like that. No, I said no. What was a traumatic experience was reading the damn thing. It was ridiculous.
It's funny that you did the alternate voices. I did that one time. It wasn't even planned. I did that one time with Jody from the Defense Rest. We were reading a deposition with
Yeah.
Sabrina Atkins, and it was good because she read Sabrina's lines and I read the attorney that was
Yes.
doing the examination, and it was great. Like you said, it helps separate for people the voices, if you will. But so
Yeah. No, and that's
Yeah.
it was funny because Kim and Tomboy both were doing they were basically talking like her, which made it a little bit kind of entertaining for people as they're listening to it as well, you know. And I think it's just more understandable than to hear my monotone voice read through this, and you
Yeah.
kind of get more of the experience of what was actually going on. At some point through it, Blaker and I think we got to the Vicky Gooch interview when she was saying some of these things, and both of them are asking her, "Have you had previous traumatic experiences? Are you on medication?"
Oh
Things like
wow.
that, like making it sound like, holy shit, you should be on medication. It was a joke. So
Yeah.
you could tell that they were like, what the fuck is wrong with this chick? Oops, sorry. So anyway, what's up, Sarge?
What
It was
about you,
crazy.
JJ? Or what have you been up to?
Oh, let's see. Just getting stuff done. I did some motorcycle riding and did some
CIA stuff.
research.
Some
I
CIA
got
stuff.
like a stack of research I have to read for my channel. That's, I've been having hard enough time getting everyday stuff done. Today, I got some stuff done today. I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I just got up and started doing stuff. And then did some errands at home and some reading, and then I went for a motorcycle ride to get lunch. That was great. It was nice and warm out today, and yeah, I had a pretty good day. I had work and play, so
Yeah.
it was a good balance.
There you
But
go.
I'm way behind on reading.
Me too, man. And it sucks because tomorrow I want to take another day to play. And every day I play now is a day that I'm getting further behind on everybody else that's reading documents that are just dropped. And I have documents I haven't even got. I got to get out of my head. I got to get out of my own head. I can't possibly keep up with everybody. So, and I got to have time for myself too. So
A lot.
I got to make some time to play. So
Yeah, you
all
got to
work and
balance it
no
out,
play.
dude. It's hard
Yeah.
to get all your research done and also
Yeah.
have some fun time,
Yeah, yeah. Even though
Yeah.
I do find this fun. I mean, I do honestly find this fun. But still, you need to sometimes take a mental break from research and all this like that. Robin, what do you have? Do you have anything special that happened today, by the way?
No, just
No?
doing some stuff behind the scenes here and all that, and no, nothing exciting dealing with the crime cat and all his crap.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of. I know that you and I got irons in the fire for our channel that we've been working in the background. So
Yes,
we're never not working. So I know that you have
right.
things that you've been doing, but yeah. What do
Yep.
we got here? Wellington Oda. Is that how do you pronounce that?
That's thank you, Wellington Oda. Appreciate that. Wishing the best weekend for everybody.
Thank you.
Same to
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, right back at you.
Absolutely.
This is a great night. This is a great night for questions. We don't have breaking news that we need to cover, so it's all kind of random discussion. We sometimes call this. Are we long enough? We're 17 minutes. Friday night fuckery, meaning that
Yes.
we just kind of let loose as if we don't. I think we let loose on every damn night, but I mean on Friday night in particular. JJ sometimes says, "Can you let me off the hook so I can talk? Or let me off the chain so I can talk conspiracy theory?" He can if you want to, but
Are we
I do
are we
try to-
dropping a link tonight, Lee?
Oh, which link? The link for the after show?
For this here tonight? Are we having people join us
Oh
tonight?
yeah,
or no?
yeah. Let's do it. Let's drop a link and have Robin put it
Okay.
in their private chat too, so that people can join us. So yeah,
Absolutely.
this would be a great night for people to join us on stage. We'll send the link out there on both Dago's side and our side, and JJ, you said you're getting close to live streaming. When are you
Thanks,
going to do your
Ron-
first live stream?
Robin.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
do
you're
it.
welcome.
I go on vacation for 2.5 weeks next week. It's starting on the 11th, I think.
Okay.
So I'll have a little, leeway with time because I won't have to work and stuff, and I'll have more time to get stuff done. So I was trying to get a sense of when people would want to do it, obviously. So I'm not interfering with this stream, and I could do it at a time when people, can watch. So I've
Yeah.
been asking people and stuff, and I'm thinking about it's probably going to be it'll be within the next 2 weeks. I haven't decided yet because I have to make sure I can have the time to do it. It's not going to interfere with anything else. And then I'm ready to do it. I haven't done a live stream yet, so it'll be fun. I'm going to engage with people and just try to see what people want to talk about cuz
Yeah, you're
me,
gonna
I
Yeah.
can go off and talk about a lot of different stuff and
telling you, JJ, you're gonna love it. Once you go live, you're not gonna want to go back the other way. I'm just saying. I won't do it, dude. Once you
Well,
go
you
live,
guys have got a lot of experience doing lives. I have never done a live.
it ain't
So,
none but a thing, bro. I'm telling you, it'll be once you get in that groove and you start moving, you're not gonna want to do anything else. I'm telling you, I can't do that stuff you guys do with that pre-record stuff. I hate it. Drives me nuts.
well, I hate
It-
the editing part because
Yeah.
I'm not good at editing
Yep.
because I haven't done it in a long time. So there's always I think I made the edit right. And then when the video goes up, there's little
Yep.
slivers in between the two
Same here.
edits. And I'm like, what? Damn it. I thought I got it.
Why I hate
Yeah.
it. And
Real quick,
here's
let's-
my. Oh, sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
let me just real quick address this question I've had up for a while, and then we'll get back to the banter here. Brent Turvey said all the material that he's discussed was public, or in what document was the information about the hair, and maybe some of the other things that he didn't disclose. So I think what you're saying is, how is it that we're just hearing about the hair in Ethan Chapin's hand, and yet Turvey said this is all public information? I think part of what he said was he had given a full copy of a full report, got to a couple of different news agencies. I think Fox
Yeah.
was one of them, and ABC maybe was the other one.
I think so. Yes.
So they've had the full report. His full report has been out there. The problem is mainstream media is reluctant to publish the report, but it's out there in the public. He's given it to the public. He was able to give it to the public, and mainstream media doesn't want to cover it because mainstream media, in my opinion, wants to continue to hold up the narrative that everything was done correctly, and so they don't want to talk about shit like hair. So it's out there. It wasn't illegal for him to share that, and it was shared with media. If media doesn't want to share it with other people, that's on them. But I think that's kind of the answer to why he can say it's already been made public, but yet you haven't heard about it until him, because mainstream media sat on it, fucking put their thumb in their ass and didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Which is part of our criticism. What I think is part of America's criticism with mainstream media, why they're losing faith in mainstream media.
So at some point tonight, since it's Friday night fuckery, I'm going to pose a question and see what people in the chat think. I don't know if you could somehow word it into a poll.
Poll. He said poll. Yay.
DA, you want to try to make a poll out of this Friday night fuckery?
I love getting my poll going on a Friday night. So yeah, I could do that. Yeah. Let me see if
let me just put the question out there and people can kind of marinate with it for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that, because here's I know I mentioned this in the past, but I'm going to address it more formally to the chat and everybody else. I had talked about the fact that, yes, Whitcomb was FBI and Holland, talked about different things, but they were also contractors. In fact, what's downplayed a lot, I mentioned this, I think last night, Whitcomb was a CIA contractor. His words.
Yeah.
What do people think about the fact that if we did a statistical analysis, what do you think the odds are that two people who have come out into the fold, so to speak, with the Idaho 4 case, were both CIA contractors.
Who was
What?
the other CIA contractor? You mean
Chris
Holland?
Holland. He was
Chris
a
Holland. Okay.
well, he said FBI contractor, but you know what that means. And
Well, the FBI doesn't do contracting in
right, that's what I
Liberia.
mean. Exactly.
So
And the places he went to, JJ, that's like you don't know. You know exactly what he's doing where
that's
he
a
went. So,
euphemism for I was a
yes.
CIA
Yes,
contractor.
basically, yeah. I said that when I listened to his, I said, there it is, folks. So
Right.
that's
So
an
it's
So how would
interesting
we
either
point.
word this question? How would we word this question you want for a poll?
So what I'm getting at is, do people think that it's just by chance that two of the three people who've done interviews about this case and have been sort of, hit and miss on certain aspects of inquiry, like some of them just dismiss certain things outright and they shift away from other things, that two of them were contractors. Now, I will say for clarification, Holland didn't say he was a CIA contractor. Whitcomb did, but
He didn't have
it's
to.
either corporate security or CIA contracting, right? In both cases, those types of things are often tied to the intelligence agencies.
Yes.
It's more of a general idea. What do you think the chances are that two people involved with talking
Intelligence.
about the cases? You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So I guess wording it would probably be, do you guys believe that it's a coincidence that two people now that have come forward work within intelligence? I mean, I think that's probably the best way to put it. Does that sound right, JJ?
Yeah, because even in corporate security, like Blackwater, and we all know about Blackwater, basically contracting, overseas and whatnot, they're related to the CIA oftentimes. Because what the CIA does is they hire people as contractors. So they're not working directly for the CIA, but they are working for a company that is working for the CIA.
All right. So I've got a wording that I got, which was, is it significant that two individuals speaking out on Idaho now are related to intelligence agencies? Would that be a fair way of wording your question?
Wait, say that again, DA?
Is it significant that two individuals speaking out on Idaho now are related to intelligence agencies? Because it's hard. I have to be I have to have only so many words I can ask in the question. So I can't get a long question.
Or like, how about, do you think?
Because I don't want to say definitively that Holland is a CIA, because like you said, he didn't flat out say that. So I don't want to.
No,
but
but
say out there that he is that when I don't know that he is. So
it's intelligence at the very least. Yeah.
Yeah, the FBI does not do contracting in other companies.
No, they don't.
Anyway, that was actually, I kind of laughed at that.
Especially not where he was. If you listen to his interview, he what did he say? Liberia. He also said, places that you only find the CIA going.
Yeah,
to.
hotbeds for U.S. intelligence.
Thank you. Yeah. But I just said, do you believe it's a coincidence that two people related to the case were involved with in intelligence have now come forward?
Yeah, that's
you got all that. I didn't think that would fit in. You have a long sentence. You got all that.
Actually, it's not going to let me. I just noticed I have 21 extra words, so I have to back that down.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's no way you fit all that in the question.
And also, I just want to kind of use this to stir up some conversation, because I think it's pretty strange that two of the people who are pretty slick when you talk to them, they know how to like divert and
of course. Word's valid. I just said, do you believe it's a coincidence that two people related to the case were involved in intelligence? That's all I put. So
okay, and mine's similar. I didn't say coincidence. I said, is it significant that two? Let's throw both polls out, and then we can reread them after a little bit here and reread both of our questions.
What answers do you want to go with, DA?
I went yes, no, or unsure is for me. I just gave it real simple. I just went real simple. So I'm just gonna let that roll marinate, as I think. Is that JJ's thing? We'll just let that marinate for a while.
Yeah, because when I listened to the Holland interview, I'm sure everybody here did.
Yeah,
and he said that, I was like, another one,
right? That's what I said. That is what I said. Same words too. I went, y'all. There's another one. There's another one. Is there going to be a third one that comes forward now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was trippy, man. I was just
So,
like,
well,
come on,
since you
man.
said that, JJ, let me ask you something real quick. What could that mean to you? Okay, if we know now we have two people that have stepped forward on this case that are speaking on it, that are both pointing to the direction that Brian, that, well, no, okay, let me rephrase this because they haven't really said that, but what they're pointing at
Right.
is the investigation, the fuckery within the investigation. They're both pointing that out. Okay, so that being said, what does that mean to you, like as far as the case is concerned and their, well, not their positions because we know what that is, but what you know what I'm trying to say? I think.
Yeah, I'll tell you what one of my theories was, which I have talked about on here before. There's a few potential scenarios, but one of them is that they were brought in to kill the lawsuit. When
Hmm.
$400 million is on the line,
Right.
companies have private security companies, right? You have contractors that
Right.
work, like Kroll and Associates was basically a CIA uh, offshoot that did private security. And and when that kind of money's on the
Right.
line, would it be beyond powerful interests like insurance companies or whatever to deploy people to raise just enough doubt in the public and put out just enough information to shift the narrative relating to a very, very significant financial, event if there was to be something that went, if this went to trial or whatever, this lawsuit. So that
I
was
want to.
one of my theories
Yeah, I want
because
I want to answer this question real quick, by the way, and then we can and then I think we should talk about our polls too, real quick. But this question is a really good question, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very careful with how I word it. So you said, if what Turvey is saying is good for Brian Koberger, why would Ann Taylor be upset with her experts proving BK's innocent? It's not like they're proving her client guilty. So yeah, so you have to ask yourself,
Yes.
why would Ann Taylor be upset with somebody suggesting? And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, and I'm going to be very careful with the way I say it.
I'm
This
gonna
was
add.
something. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on that. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
this was
I'll add
something that came up.
afterwards.
Okay, this was something that came out on that Crime Talk interview with the Gonzalez's, and this was stated by them on that interview. A defense attorney, when you have death on the line, I got Princess Bride in my head every time I say when death is on the line.
When
Anyways,
death is on the line.
when death is on the line, when you've got death on the line, a defense attorney is considered to win if all you do is get the death penalty removed. That's considered a win for the defense
Yeah.
attorney, right? So if your client is charged with death and they're going to put him to death, and you get anything short of putting your client to death, you won, and that's considered a good thing for
Right.
your career. And Taylor won when he pled guilty and collected $2 million, a huge amount of money. So Ann Taylor has no desire for anybody to rock the boat. Everyone is happy with the verdict. The prosecution's happy. The defense is happy. They got a win in their eyes because they got death penalty removed. She got paid $2 million. They're all happy. The prosecution and the defense is satisfied. The only person who's not satisfied maybe is Brian Koberger.
Well,
but as far as they're going, they're satisfied.
let me piggyback something off that goes along with what JJ said and what you just said too. So I'm glad you actually kind of segued right into what I was going to say. Speaking of Brian Koberger, now that we know that these two gentlemen, Christopher Whitcomb and Christopher Holland, or I'm sorry, yeah, they both have the same first name. Okay. Anyhow, Chris and Chris, the two Chris,
The Chris's.
the Chris.
Chris squared.
So now that we know that both the Chris's have come out, okay, and who they're affiliated with, I'll just put it that way, and can be affiliated with. And this is Friday. I'm not putting this out there saying that I believe this. I'm not saying that this is what I think, and it is a deep hole, okay? But does anybody think there's a possibility at this point that Brian Koberger could be number 3? And I'm just saying, okay, with these two gentlemen coming forward, okay, and doing what they're doing, it's been talked about that Brian could have been working for an agency. I'll just put it that way, okay? And I'm telling you, I'm one of the people that have said that's really hard for me to believe because it is. Is it though? If you dig into the back of your mind and maybe your soul, do you believe that it's a possibility that he could be associated with? I'll just say that Brian could be associated with that situation somehow.
Well, that was my biggest theory. You know, the lawsuit was just sort of like an ancillary theory that I had, um, because of the significance of the lawsuit. But I still believe that he is working as an operative, and I haven't seen anything to change my mind, and everything that, at least the way that I look at it, logically supports that idea, because I just don't think there would be this much coordination for a framing of somebody.
Sure. I get it. I do. And like I said, I'm not saying it's my belief, guys. It's just I've been asked this. I don't know how many times it's been talked about on my show, more than once. Many people believe this. Okay. And again, I'm not saying it's Friday. Okay. And it is definitely a conspiracy theory. But it's a curiosity. Because of different things that have been said, different things that point to different things. It seems ridiculous to me in most aspects, but I'm not. You guys know me. I'm very open minded. I will listen and I will try to find a way to see how that would make sense. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's end our poll for right now, and let's get the results up there in case we want to show more poll later.
Yeah, he doesn't have any poll patience. No poll patience.
No poll patience. So I got on my side, and this is the way I worded it, and this is the result. Is it significant that two individuals speaking out on Idaho now are related to intelligence agencies? Yes, 75%. No, 16%. Unsure, 9%, with 44 people responding. So,
And mine says, do you believe it's a coincidence that two people related to the case were involved in intelligence? And I have mine's worded different, so it's going to come off different. I have 9% said yes, 62% said no, and 29 right. There's your answer. 29% said no damn clue.
Yeah, fair enough. So it's similar. It's just worded differently, so that yes,
the different wording. So
yeah.
Basically, 69% of my people said, yeah, it is definitely not a coincidence that they're there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be too coincidental, right? I mean, I don't believe that when high profile things happen, that the wacky shit that we are all confronted with is just by accident. I think
right
when there seems to be a lot of coordination, which put my theory aside, we all agree that there's been coordination to cover things up, to obscure information, right? I think so many people I've heard and comments I've seen believe that a lot of the shit we've been seeing has been manipulated. So for me,
without a doubt,
that requires coordination. And to what Philly said last night, a lot of times, like, documents, they're not really signed, sealed, and delivered by the people who were supposed to be the ones initiating them. They go up the chain, and if there's information that gets changed, then the public is not getting the information from the source. They're getting a doctored version of it.
All right. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Piece of G.
It's like,
hold on.
I've been saying about the audio. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. I thought maybe I was muted. It's like, oh, I'm muted. I was just laughing because Piece of Cheese said something about they're getting ready to fall asleep to my show. And I'm like, I'm never sure how to take that. It's like, am I so boring that I put you to sleep? That I know it's not meant that way. I think it's actually supposed to be a compliment that, like, I go to sleep listening to the DA fuckery. But I'm like, that sounds like I'm boring the piss out of you. Anyways,
I know Lucy just said it seems to me the real reason Whitcomb is out here with this book is because the FBI to NBC equals NBC to Whitcomb equals DM to BVF. I'm so screwed or scared, though, with that arrow to blame and defense for the leak, which is why Anne's pissed at Turvey. I think I read that right. If I didn't, Lucy, I'm sorry. It's an interesting point. if I understand it. I think I do. Sometimes I have to read Lucy's stuff more than once to get it to go through my head the right way.
And, you know, one of the things that I always kind of make sure that I address is the framing aspect of it, right? I know that like I said last night, I know that happens. I know a lot of people believe that. And I read the comments, I see what people say on this stream and other streams. I get it. I understand all that. But this is very different than
It is.
any case we've seen.
Have you ever seen JJ or Lee, Rob, anybody for this matter? But JJ, since you're saying this, have anybody ever seen? We've seen the other cases where there's frame jobs involved. Okay, even small local stuff. Has anybody ever seen a frame job? We'll call it for that point, and just for this point, that is so intricate, that has as many moving parts as this does? Because I haven't in my that I know
No.
of at the local level like that. You know what I'm saying? Nothing that's not some kind of a government scandal.
Right. I mean,
Right.
if you got multiple agencies involved with something, you're telling me they're all going along with a frame job? It just
That's my
doesn't,
biggest problem, JJ.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. And it's not that I am someone who doesn't think that happens. Obviously, I know that that happens. But it just seems to me pretty clear that there's been a lot of coordination to get us to this point. And it would explain why BK is not seeming to be interested about post-conviction relief, even though they had like nothing but circumstantial evidence against him. To me, somebody who knows criminology and things like that, you know, now I will play devil's advocates with myself because I always occasionally want to make sure that I do that, to be fair. One scenario in which I thought BK could have been involved is that maybe he was peripherally involved and they had information about him that would have also made the victims look bad, right? So
Okay.
there could have been something connected to, like, if one of them did have an OnlyFans that he had visited and so on and so forth. And there could have been information that they didn't want to get out to make, you know, the
Yeah.
victims,
Right.
any of the victims look bad. And so they didn't publicly state it, but BK didn't want that shit to come out in a trial.
Sure.
That's a scenario where I thought, well, maybe he didn't want that stuff to get out. So he just said, look, I'm not going to get put to death at least. And so I'm going to plea. But in that scenario, I don't think there'd be that much coordination and that much need for a cover up
Right.
of a lot of information or what seems to be a cover up. So that's why
right.
that hasn't fully swayed me, but I did consider that as a possibility.
Sure. Suzanne Sib, thank you so much. I think, or Silb. I'm sorry, I misread that. Thank you so much for that. Looks like number 2 towards our goal tonight. God bless. Very much appreciated and very generous of you. And thank you so much again, dear. Appreciate that.
And we also have Sergeant Friday backstage ready to join us on here. So we've had him on before. Let's bring him on again for tonight. What's up, sir?
Hey,
He got his microphone
Hey there.
you're
muted. at the
muted.
moment.
You're muted, Sarge.
Yeah, because I want to try to control my interaction.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Forget about it.
So I got a couple of points, but here's the first simple one. It was I don't know. I think I heard you, devil's advocate, there, DA Lee, mentioned that an Alford plea was sought, but it was rejected.
Yeah.
Okay, and that
Yeah.
reinforces my point that Ann walked this gentleman into a plea deal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It looks that way,
And
Sarge.
it may
Yeah.
be because she thinks that's the best solution, but I want to caveat that with all cases, the best solution is a plea deal. That's what they're trained to do. That's what
Yeah.
they believe, that like a Jehovah's Witness believes what he believes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how
Makes
a lot of this corruption occurs within these departments. It's not people cooperating for a corrupt result. It's people that rally the wagons around a concept or an idea or a person, and they do everything in their power to make that be true. So when they focused on Koberger, it wasn't that 17 different people were conspiring to frame this kid. It was that idea itself and that concept, okay, it initiated everybody to jump on board with it. And that's where our corruption is. It's not in they're stealing drug money, or they're cooperating with some politician under the table or a drug dealer. It's that the way the system is trained into the people that work it, like Chris Whitcomb, that claimed what a wonderful job these policemen did, right?
Right.
I mean, he can make that claim with a straight, honest face, with all the conviction of a Jehovah's Witness, because he was part of that system. To him, that's how it works. It's what we tell you is the truth.
They're trained. They're trained to believe that, right?
It's very sad. So the corruption isn't an overt act of people conspiring for an outcome. It's that once an outcome is presented and they start seeing everything through that particular view, everything in their mind fits and they've done their job. That's the real tragedy in our justice system.
I agree. And I want to talk a moment about that Alfred plea thing, because Steve Gonzalez said,
I'll be right back.
Brian Koberger wanted an Alfred plea, and I rallied the troops and said, we're not going to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Steve doesn't have the ultimate decision on whether or not they accept or not accept any kind of plea deal. But what I gather what it means is the unsaid influence that the families have, right? The family's consideration is supposed to be taken into it. They're supposed to meet with the families and say, hey, would you feel justice has been served if we take a plea deal on this kind of thing? And so maybe when Steve says we're not going to let that happen, maybe they were told, hey, look, Koberger, and this would make sense. If they came and said to the families, Koberger's interested in doing a plea, but it's going to be an Alfred plea, and they all said, fuck no, and they thought it was done because they said fuck no, and they're like, okay, you said no. And then all of a sudden they announce we're taking a plea deal, but it wasn't Alfred, and they think that they're okay because it wasn't an Alfred plea, and they're like, hey, you fucked us. You said there wasn't going to be a plea deal. Now all of a sudden there's a plea deal. Like, well, it was not an Alfred plea. It's just a full-on I did it plea. So
yeah, I think he's bravado and ego is pouring out of what he's saying, because it was the biggest complaint in the world when the plea was announced, that the families had never been told. Yeah, it was all over the news, right? So the fact that they prevented an Alfred plea is just bravado, him puffing up his chest like a peacock. There's no truth in what he was saying there, in my opinion.
But it's bothersome because so he acted like nobody was aware at all that a plea deal was coming. And then he says he wanted an Alfred plea. You can't have it both ways. So if there was discussions about a plea happening, then you were aware that was happening. And if he's just making it up, it shoots his own argument in the foot, in my opinion. Because what you're saying is, to the end, Brian Koberger was saying, I didn't do it. I'll only plead guilty if I can say I didn't do it, but you're going to convict me anyways. Like it actually makes his case look worse to admit that it was an Alfred plea, that he was going to say, I still didn't do it, but you're going to convict me anyways. So,
in his defense, and I'm not a big fan of him at all. I mean, I've actually done videos directed right at him on my live stream. But that Stockholm syndrome plays a role that people just can't understand the depths of how people are dragged into stuff. And this is exactly how it goes. It plays into the corruption itself as well. It's a similar process. When all your answers only come from a certain group of people, no matter how unbelievable they are, you keep hearing the same thing over and over again, right? And that becomes your truth. And where else are you going to go get information from as a parent involved in that homicide with his child being taken from them? The only people you could depend on are those that are there. And whatever they tell you, you've got to hope. And eventually you come to believe that it's the absolute truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Because if it isn't, dear God, this nightmare never ends for you. And that may not be a conscious thought, but that's a real driving factor behind what I see is Steve and his wife joining into the defense's narrative. Where else do these people have to go for real answers? And do they want to go down the road of real answers and open up this can of worms? Because, dear God.
Yeah, I think Steve said something like that in the interview. I don't want to have to be asking these questions for the rest of our lives, kind of thing. So if you're gonna, eventually the idea that he got across was, if you're gonna take a plea, make sure he says he did it alone, because I don't want to have to answer questions for the rest of my life about what really happened. Like, make him say he did it and did it by himself. I personally question whether they really believe he did it by himself, but what they said was, if you're gonna take a plea, then make it be done. Put a bow on it. Make nobody else talking about it anymore. Say it was him and it was him alone. And I don't want to ever have to fucking deal with this again. I'll go start my foundation. I'll go raise money. We'll make the best out of a bad situation. But don't leave it open where there's going to be other perpetrators coming forward later or any other shit like that, because we don't want to have to deal with this the rest of our lives. But I don't know if I'm making any sense with that.
Oh,
But
you are, but that was fine in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. It's no longer possible today. There's too
Yeah.
many people out here that are observing, and there's too many people that are discussing. There's too much information that comes forward that contradicts the narrative of the prosecution. He contradicts himself when he put his closing argument to get the plea deal. We can't say that this kid did anything at all, but he's taken that's what he should have done. He should have said one sentence. We don't know who did it, but this guy's going to say he did. So, yeah, next.
You bring up a really interesting point that I want to discuss with the panel is that it seems like they're not used to, like the prosecution, law enforcement, everybody's not used to YouTube. YouTube is starting to now challenge cases at an unprecedented level. And they're used to people just accepting the 5 o'clock news to tell you what happened. And yet YouTube is not new. So it's been around for a long time. So maybe I'm being ignorant, but it seems like they're not prepared for the fact that more and more people are challenging cases and the old bullshit doesn't fly anymore. People are challenging it.
YouTube was
I
never.
think that's true.
I agree. And Robin's, YouTube was not for what we do for the longest time. It was for hobbyists and just people making stupid videos and so on and so forth. And it became and I'll be honest with you, I think this case is what created it. Okay, created the true crime community background that we have now that they never thought was going to be a problem. They never they completely fully underestimated the fact that this exists, okay, the way it does. And the fact that there are law enforcement officers, attorneys, doctors, nurses, firefighters, government members that used to belong to government agencies, so on and so forth, that are involved in this. They never thought that was going to ever be a thing, to where people can look at it and go, that's not normal and something's wrong here. And they thought they would just, do their thing because it worked for years, folks, before we had the internet. So, now I think they're still not equipped enough to understand the basis of where we exist now. Do you know what I mean? And it's still not enough for them or to understand.
And or there may be a few of them who are starting to get it, but the thing is now, JJ has said this about, look at Ashley Banfield and Nancy Disgrace and all those. They're coming over here because they recognize this is where it is. This is where people are coming to these platforms because they don't trust the main, ABC and NBC and all that. So people are here, but I think on their end, eventually it's going to backfire on them because it's going to become very, very apparent that they are still not telling the truth. They might be on YouTube, but they're not YouTubers and they're not independent media anymore. I don't care where those people are. They're not independent, and they're
trying
still
it.
just spouting the same old bullshit that they're being handed and told to speak into a teleprompter.
That's exactly it right there too, Robin. They tried to come this direction and they're still not getting it. Sorry, Sarge. Go ahead.
YouTube does something the media used to do itself and no longer even tries.
Right.
That we won't let go.
Yeah.
Right.
And we tell the truth. They don't do that anymore either.
The power in not letting go. They didn't let go when they accused Nixon of what Nixon did they?
Right.
They didn't let go. Okay.
Right.
But the media no longer does that. They go to the next news cycle of the day, the next tragedy, the next drama. And that's what gives YouTube its threatening power to those that be. Because YouTube does not let something go until there's a finality to it that's a reasonable and the outcome seems just. That's not how the media works anymore, but YouTube does.
And I was afraid for a while that the government's going to put the brakes on YouTube and YouTube's going to reverse its course and start shutting us all down. But I think it's become a juggernaut now, and they're making a fuck ton of money off of true crime. So YouTube's probably like, fuck off.
God, yeah.
Like we're not going to shut this down. This is our bread and butter.
The reason why a lot of these people went to YouTube is because the mainstream media has always been able to control the narrative, whatever it is, whatever big story it is. And as that started to diminish and other platforms with big time creators like Joe Rogan and so on and so forth is where everybody was going to, they realized, shit, we can't control the narrative anymore. So we have to make it appear like, oh, we're trying to be independent and we're going to move to these platforms, but they're not independent. They're just in there because they still work for these same organizations. They're just a satellite of those organizations, and they want to try to continue to control the narrative because they're losing their grip on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah,
And
news is changing. News is changing very, very rapidly. The Tucker Carlson's moving over and doing podcasts now, sitting in their bedroom, or not their bedroom, but their office at home with their microphone or an intimate thing. That's becoming the way people prefer to get news now. Conversations with real people, sitting down and having
Right.
a coffee conversation instead
Yes.
of the talking head over a teleprompter shit.
And whether people want to believe it or not, we are the new news. We are the news now.
Right.
People come to us before they go to mainstream. I mean, there's still that couple handful of people that, are locked in mentally that won't walk away from it. But the people that understand the basis of what's going on and has been going on, I've been told many, many times, we come to you guys for the truth because you will give it to us in the best aspect that you can. Mainstream media has become entertainment. It's not like reality anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you guys, it's sad. They get mad and they get angry and they're like, you're not journalists. You're not, reporters. You're not this and that. And in all reality, I think it's Kathy's Indie Zone. She's made multiple statements. Okay. Kathy's awesome, guys. Go check out her channel. But she said she believes that it's going to be us, the independent reporters, the investigative reporters on YouTube that are going to solve the damn case because of the way that we don't stop, the way that we, like Sarge said, we don't let go until you give us the
Right.
reality of what's real, what's true. We don't let go. And I have to agree with her. It's
Yeah.
very plausible. I don't think I'm going to solve the case, but I think combined, all of us together working in unison the way we do may come to a point where, hey, wait a minute, look at this, then that. You know what I mean? So just saying that's how I see it.
Times they are
I
a
agree.
changing.
Now that you mentioned time, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think the combined knowledge of this panel may be able to answer the question. In the early on days of all of this, the video and audio that was recorded from the crime scene from external cameras, okay, wasn't turned over for quite some time to Ann Taylor.
Right.
And the argument was that they were trying to get the voice and the video in sync. Okay, I don't know. And no, Lucy would, if she's in the chat room,
Yeah, she is
quick to correct me, okay? But I think it took 10 or more months for Ann to get that discovery. So here's my question. Is that video and the sounds around the 4 o'clock hour really the 4 o'clock hour, or is that the 2 to 3 o'clock hour that's been shifted?
Thank you, sir. Thank
We-
you for
That's my
saying that.
question.
And so
We've been
Thank you.
asking that for quite a while. We've been asking, and the question is, did they hand it to Ann Taylor out of sync, out of order, and expected her to figure out that the time was that the sounds were in the wrong time?
Fully manipulated. Yes, sir. I
Yeah.
agree they did.
I
I believe they
agree.
did.
And here's the real issue with this goes back to the process of discovery. I think tells a story on whether this video isn't, not that it's not real, but whether the video's timestamps and the audio coming across on these timestamps, and maybe even the video itself, but I suspect it's limited to the audio, have not been tampered with. It just seemed to be that way as their argument for not producing that discovery immediately to Ann Taylor. How is it you couldn't give somebody a video clip, and your argument is you needed to sync the audio with the video? That's not how cameras record nowadays. It's not 1960.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Right.
I also questioned the fuckery that could happen when they posted the video, for example, of the 2:30 to something 3:30 time frame. It says across the entire video, for the entirety of that video, redacted. And sure, there's some license plates that have a blur over them. And I said, could they get away with fuckery and say, because I blurred a license plate, you're believing that redacted just means the license plate, but redacted can mean whatever the fuck I want. I redacted out whatever the fuck I want and just put the word redacted, and it covers the fact that I'm muddying the audio. I'm not just blurring out license plate. Like, I can do whatever I want to at this point because I disclosed it's redacted. This has been redacted. And did they fuck with sound, and did they do all kinds of stuff? Like, they should have to tell you specifically what was redacted and why. They should point out why they redacted it. But I've questioned, did they muddy the audio? A lot of people have said the audio sounds muddied, like they ran something over it so that you couldn't hear things. So how much redaction was done on the thing?
When it's been cleaned up by some of these guys like Outcast and other channels that have come out here and cleaned some of this stuff up, you hear something different. In my opinion, it's been done absolutely on purpose. I'm actually going to run a poll for everybody on if you want to join me, it's up to you. But
okay. Yeah.
Do you believe that the audio and videos within the case have been manipulated? Because I want to see everybody's thoughts on this, truly and honestly, because I do believe it. And I think we talked about this the other day when I was here the last time.
Mhm.
And Christie's Chaos has found it. A few other channels have found. I think Bubbly pointed it out too. Christie put a video out literally showing the video, two different videos side by side. Okay, they were side by side, different times completely, but it's the exact same identical video. Running the car, turning the corner, and all this. The lighting all around it is identical in both videos.
Yeah, your mic's on.
Yeah,
I know. I was typing,
He's a
but
super typer.
I'm finished. I'm finished typing. I was typing that poll. But yeah,
Well,
I
the
should've-
thing is, if so many other things have been obscured and manipulated, and we've been fed a lot of horse shit like the PCA and all these other things, why wouldn't they mess with the audio and the video? I mean, you know how easy it is for a tech to manipulate video? It's nothing. It's not at all complicated. It's
no.
One of the things that I said early on when that stuff was released is it sounded like there were effects being used, like to make that warbling sound and to change that, kind of make that muffled sound.
The white noise that's been added to the background of it as well, so that you can't hear whispers and different sounds and things that have been put out there. I agree.
Right. We lost Sergeant Friday. I don't know if he did that by accident or if we did it. Or
if you need another link, Sarge, let me know if you want to come back up.
Okay,
but I mean, you guys, right? Wouldn't it be like so easy? I mean, Dago, DA, you guys, Robin, you guys do a lot of editing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, can you imagine an expert with like an agency? How easily they can manipulate shit?
I want to just.
That's what yeah.
Go ahead,
I mean,
I
with
want
work
to
that I
suggest
do with the sizzle reels and shit, yeah, it's real easy to add noises in these programs anymore. Like even like Canva are so simple to add. They have whole banks of audio, sound effects and shit like that that they can add in. It's simple. A 12-year-old could do it.
And this is where I want to bring Brian Kohlberger into the crime. See, I've never been convinced that he wasn't a part of the crime or that he was part of the crime.
Right.
But if you want to make an argument that he had any presence there and a minuscule amount of DNA was found on that knife sheath's inner leather button snap, right?
Yeah.
Cleanup and the relocation, maybe the touching of that object, and that maybe Brian was in that crime scene, but not as a killer.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so
help stage. Right.
So he may have been the post 4 a.m. He may have come in.
That's the only thing. Good point, Sarge.
Now, I've been, I mean, for a long time, I've been on both sides of the aisle where he is or isn't, but mainly there's no evidence to support either way. But in this scenario, if that video is altered, it opens up a door that will impugn Kohlberger.
With his background,
and it makes targeting him a perfect reason. Why and where do they get his name?
Yeah,
right.
Because he was part of it, but not the murderous part.
Yeah, his background could play directly right into the center of that, without a doubt. I agree with that. Did you send up your poll already, Lee?
I have it ready to go, so I was getting ready to read it. So the way I've got it worded is: do you believe law enforcement manipulated audio video evidence before Ann Taylor got it? That was my question.
And mine just says, do you believe that the audio and videos have been manipulated by Ellie? So
Okay,
yes, no, and I don't care. All right,
let's do it.
No, that's a good point, Sarge. It really truly is. With his background, cloud forensics, and the other things that he knows, that could be the end for him. Truly and honestly, that's the only thing. As I was just having this conversation before we started the show about how I cannot connect Brian to anything except that. So that would make sense. I'll say that much. So that's a good point. Holy shit, that went fast.
You know, and technically, here's the thing. Technically, I want to make sure I'm right about this when I say it. So you guys correct me if I'm wrong. Nothing should be edited or manipulated.
No.
Ann Taylor should get discovery, raw discovery, not redacted shit, not manipulated shit. So they shouldn't be handing Ann Taylor redacted anything. She should
No.
have full access to the
agree.
discovery as it was brought in.
And yes,
No.
Noel, I do believe Jack Decor was the first one to have the 1112 footage. Yes.
There's also always been, for all of us, and I say this strongly, for all of us, the question of how did they come up with Koberger? Now, Ann
Right.
was on that question the whole time. Okay.
Yes.
And we've been on that the whole time. And if you take the scenario of alter timelines in the video to mask the actual crime, then how do you get to Koberger? Remember, she kept asking that. How did you get to Koberger? And in the scenario that I just painted, that would be exactly how they got. They knew he was involved, not as a committer of the murders, but
right,
as part of the crime scene cleanup or part of the delivery of the people. Right.
Creation.
So
right.
His involvement had nothing to do with the actual act of murder.
And
that would be because otherwise, how do you really pull this rabbit out of your ass?
That's the only there. We've got Sarge. You've been around for years. Everybody that has done this has been around for years that we've looked into. Nobody can find any connection for Brian Koberger to anything related to this case other than the possibility of what you just said.
Of the killers. It's related to the killers, not to the victims.
Right. That's it. Not to the victims at all. Nothing.
You know, one of the things, guys, that we used to talk about a lot, all of us, that kind of faded into the background was how much sway the university had over this investigation. And the whole thing about, you know, getting students to come back to school and new students to come there.
Right.
I think we all would agree that the school had a lot of sway over MPD at the very least.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of things could have been shifted around because, like we all pretty much say, it's not always what you're hearing about or what's being talked about. It's what's not being talked about. And the school is not being talked about at all.
No, and they've stayed very quiet for the most part during most of it, other than Scott dipping his feet in the water all the time. But yeah, agreed. And real quick, thank you, Kawanda, for the membership drop you just dropped there. Appreciate that so very much. And it looks as though Jess N33 received it. Congrats and welcome to the sauce. Great to have you here. Thank you again, Kawanda. It was very generous and very much appreciated, dear. Yeah, it's a good point, JJ. It very, very much is.
And I don't think that we can get away from the concept that there was some involvement of Koberger and there was not involvement of Koberger. I'm not like someone that thinks he's guilty and I'm not someone that thinks he's innocent, but I'm someone that'll accept reasonable understandings of the facts in front of us.
So then
if it could be factually proven that that the murders took place between 2 and 3 o'clock, if that can be established without any guessing or theories, if that's a fact, then you have to then ask the next question. How did Koberger get involved? Because they're saying they got his car at 4 o'clock. How do they know about Brian? Right? He would have to be specifically known because so many phones were downloaded that night.
Right.
So many cars were observed, right? So how did he get singled out of that crowd? And why wasn't it someone local connected to the community?
And this is
so it really is a good observation. Whether it's accurate or not is I can't say it is, but it does make sense.
Yeah, but the next question now, Sarge, with that being put out there is why and who brought him on board? Okay, that's the case. If that were to be, if we go that direction, which I don't have any problems looking at, but who and what's the motive there?
Well, here's how we got brought on board.
Right.
You look at the exam that he put online, and then you look at the statements that his jailmates had put out forward, which weren't incriminating to the crime, but were very, very, very informative as to what kind of a guy Brian is. Brian wants to know everything. And if there's going to be a crime and he's curious how murderers and all these people or all these criminals behave, what better opportunity than this? Right? So I'm not saying that this is what Brian did or this is any fact in reality, but when you start changing the timeline, you can then start to put Brian Koberger back in the timeline, not as the killer, but as somebody that was part of a group.
Right.
Initiated this, and they did that and had Brian come in.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Real quick, I wanted to add, and thanks. I don't know if we said this or not, but Kwanda, thank you for giving gift memberships over here. That's amazing. Thank you very much. So something along that lines, I've always said, I think part of the reason why Koberger could have, I'm not saying there's any proof that he was there, but part of the reason why he could have been willing to roll over and take the plea is because he knows he was there. Like you said, I'm not capable of doing what you're saying I did, but he knows he was there and he knows he's fucked because they've got him there. And here's the thing. A lot of people believe if you're an accomplice to murder, it's the same thing as murder itself. So
Right.
There's a part of me that thinks law enforcement and the prosecution know there were multiple perpetrators. They know it, but they can't for some reason get the actual people who did it. But they know Koberger also was involved as a cleanup person or a getaway driver. And so what they said was, we're going to do the next best thing. We're going to get the one fucking person we know was there. Even if it's not the killer, even if he didn't get in, we don't give a shit. We got one guy, and that's the only guy we can get who we know was there. And whether he was it or not, we're just going to make it say that he was it. And he's in a position of saying, I can't fucking argue that I was there, and I can't turn over who it was. So I'm fucked. You're going to convict me of something I didn't do. I'm not capable of doing it. And this was what Harsh Reality was saying this morning. He still goes back to, what if Brent Kopacka did know Brian Koberger? What if Koberger came and picked up Kopacka? He was finishing the job and his buddy again, there's no proof that they knew each other, but I've made lots and lots of talk about them coming from the same area and how they could have, and they lived right next to each other in Pullman, Washington. So if they did know each other, someone like Kopacka, and I'm not trying to say Kopacka did it, that's not what I'm saying, but someone like that has more capability of doing what happened than a Brian Koberger who boxed at a gym for exercise. It doesn't make sense. So
every plan has multiple players. Okay, even in law enforcement. Okay, there's multiple people doing different things. If you take what was it, Critical Minds or whatever you want to talk about with whatever shows. Okay, each person has a job. Each person does a specific thing. And each person is important for one reason, okay? And that, I mean, the way you're phrasing it, the way Sarge is bringing it up, that's how I see this in my mind, is that if he is involved, that's the only way I can see it, that they used him for that specific thing, and either the other people are either no longer with us, in hiding, and everybody stepped out of the way, and Brian didn't get to do that, okay? And here he is. He's the only one left that they could throw this on at this point, and there he is. And that's kind of, in that sense, how I kind of see that. You know what I mean? And it does make sense. It truly does. That's the only way it makes sense to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, so people in the chat room don't get confused, because somebody said we've already covered this. But the caveat to this is the timestamps are not accurate.
Wow.
And there's argument, and there's a lot of argument. There's a lot of good video. There's someone out there syncing the Linda Lane video to the 11/12 video.
Yeah.
And they're syncing noises and sounds at different times. So there's some very highly skilled people out on these streets that are able to. Now, if they're lying to us, then I can only go what they're showing. I can't punch a hole in what they're showing. And when they start to show a timeline where killings start before 3 a.m. and screams and conversations and noises, and yet there's none of those are during the 4 a.m. hour.
Not even close.
No.
Right.
So now you have to ask yourself, is that the 4 a.m. hour moved back, or is that the actual time of the crime and the 4 a.m. hour became the cleanup hour? That's where it started. And if it did, wasn't Brian involved? Is that how they were able to take that patsy, which is what he would be more perfect of as a patsy than he would be a doer? Right?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Dago. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's interesting that you said that, Sarge, real quick, because the other day I was going through different videos, the 1112 video, and then I was referencing the Linda Lane video. For the first time, I slowed it down and turned it way up and all that fun stuff. The 227 scream, that horrendous scream that is definitely not a party happy scream. It's a blood curdling, horrifying scream that we hear. For the first time, I heard it on the Linda Lane footage at the same time. You can hear it faintly in the background, and I went, I'll be damned. There it is, and it lines up there, okay? So at that point, that absolutely plays out. And what you're saying is what's bringing that back to me right now. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But the whole basis for them bringing Koberger in was the car and the DNA. And we know that they didn't have, it wasn't his DNA that Othram came up with on the snap, right? It wasn't until they gave that back to the FBI, I believe, right? It was the FBI that gave a tip that they gave his name, basically. So if they had a connection to him, if the actual DNA that they generated, the sample, had a connection to Koberger, why not say it?
Right.
Why just, oh, we're giving you a tip? They never said it was his DNA
No,
or
I
made
think
a link to him.
I
So
think people are mistaken why they said it was a tip. I think what people are not really paying attention to is how devious the FBI is by doing that. You see, they violated DOJ policy in one of the databases that weren't available to law enforcement.
Right.
When they came
Correct.
back and said this is a tip only, because they were trying to isolate themselves from their own behavior.
Don't use
Correct.
it. Right.
Correct. Right.
And that's why the word tip became part of the topic. Not because
Yes.
you're right. How can a law enforcement agency make a tip on a suspect as a law enforcement agency that did the investigation to come up with that name? Right?
Yeah, I can't
What a tangled web we weave.
I can't remember who said it, but that was somebody said it, that the tip came in because they knew
Yeah.
they had done something illegal or not illegal. They had
Inappropriate.
violated their own policy.
Right.
Use
And-
databases that law
And
enforcement
let's make it worse.
use.
Othram never got uninvolved in that sample analysis. My understanding is that
No.
either the owners of the lab or the lab itself maintained that specimen on behalf of the FBI.
Yeah.
That they worked for the FBI no different than they worked for the Idaho police. The same lab that said there were 4 brothers also devised that it was Brian Koberger with the help of the FBI.
And
Yeah.
and the reason
That's
why
my
they did-
understanding of how this all came out, and I could be completely wrong.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. And again, the reason and to follow the thing is the tip was, we're going to give you the name you need to come to, but go do some real police work because this is who it is. Just take that as a tip, so
Yeah.
you can know with confidence that it's the right guy. But go do real boots on the ground police work and put him there. And that's where they couldn't. They needed the DNA. And that's why this whole fuckery happened. It's like, we can only give you a tip. You can't use what we're giving you, but this is the name. So go find out how it fucking fits, because he's the guy, but you can't
Well,
use our information.
Then you can add to that down the road where good old Mr. Hippler told both sides at that point then to figure something out, create a story to explain away this tip and all this other shit, so on and so forth. And that tells you even more about the situation, in my opinion. Okay, because why would a judge ever say that to anybody? Anybody tell me? Just somebody tell me.
By the way, I can't remember if I played it in my clip. I know, I think Sergeant Friday said he must have saw the video I did or something, but I can't remember if I played this part of the interview. Steve Gonzalez gave a pretty good, I'm going to be fair, he gave a pretty good argument about what this statement. People don't understand how IGG works. IGG does not tell you who did the crime. That's what he said. He said flat out. IGG doesn't work that way. What it does is it tells you everybody that it couldn't been. So his logic was, it eliminates everyone except for one person. It doesn't say Brian Koberger is a guy. It says it can't be anyone on the face of the planet or anyone in the galaxy, because it's octillion the number of people, and so it's everyone's excluded except for one person. So his logic is, yeah, you're right. It didn't put Brian Koberger at the scene. It placed no one possible but Brian Koberger to have done it, because that's how it works, in kind of in reverse, if you follow what I'm saying. But I still think that's bullshit. I think it was it's fuckery.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this, because there's different ways that you can look at things, right? Looking at it that way, it's like, oh, there's fuckery, they're agencies, and nobody calls out the fuckery in the agencies any more or less than I do, right? But the whole CI angle, if it got out to the public that let's assume that we believe there was a CI, at least one in that house. And we all have looked at the possibility of a program that was in place in conjunction with the university and MPD, right? Where they had CI type scenarios with people involved in Greek life and so on and so forth. If there was essentially collateral damage that resulted because of this program they had in place. To me, that would explain the fuckery, that the school couldn't let that get out, and MPD couldn't let that get out, and they had already been working in conjunction with other agencies in that area. And BK, very potentially, because that's what he was going to school for, could have been working with one of those funding operations in that area. They don't want it to get out to the public, because are people going to send their kids to a university that's got programs in place that resulted in 4 students being murdered?
Right.
I think, to me,
Right.
if you look at everything together, it to me at least, it looks like it's a higher up the ladder scenario, that the coordination came because of money, because of the school would lose it's millions of dollars in student loans, tuition, and so on. And that was what necessitated covering up all this information. They had to create a narrative because they couldn't have it get back and get out to the public that it was the result of people in that house being involved with some sort of a operation.
Right.
So to me, there is enough logical connections that can be made to a bigger picture, because yes, there is a lot of fuckery in the agencies, and there are framings that happen, and they get blind, they get their blinders on and they focus on somebody and they try to make it fit. But at the same time, cover-ups happen when money is on the line.
Well, add that, JJ. Yeah, right there. Hold that thought, and add the fact that Green was working on the University of Phoenix deal at that point in time too, and all that money that could have been lost that he would have needed for that deal would have completely dumped that deal at that point as well. That's something else to think about, to add into that. Okay, so we all know. I can't remember how much that deal was worth, but it was expensive as shit. So
it was big money.
Real big money. So if JJ's, what he's saying, you guys, is if this would have happened and all of the enrollment would have dropped, that money would have fell out the window, and he would have lost that money that he would have needed to help make that deal go through, in my opinion. In turn, there's another good reason right there to support it. Okay.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
That's why you're here, sir.
Well, I had a stream the other night and I came to conclusions, and some of those conclusions are being, you guys are helping me along. Anyway, here's the question. If there's 5 different weapons used on one individual, how many killers are there? A 5-armed murderer. B,
Killer octopus.
Multiple murderers. And then question 2 is, if there's more than one kind of weapon used in a brutal fight resulting in the death of a young woman, was there A, 1 fighter, or B, 2 fighters?
Right.
And so when you look at this crime scene, it absolutely screams multiple perpetrators, and every detail has been released. And yet, the only one that's suffering for the crime is the one that admitted to it. So do you guys support what the autopsies are showing us, with multiple weapons, multiple blades,
yes,
weapons?
Yes,
absolutely.
Mashing, right? Okay.
And because you're not going to switch weapons off and on. Hang on, I got to change my other weapon here.
Yeah, hold still
That's
for a
not
minute.
how it's going to go.
Don't move,
way.
Robin. I'm getting the baseball bat. I'll be right back.
Right.
Yeah, stay right there. I'll be right back. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold my beer. I'll be right back. I need a double-edged weapon now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I believe multiple weapons are used. Absolutely, I believe.
Multiple perpetrators.
Dr. Singh was simply asked by the prosecution, as typical is, we believe it happened this way. Is it possible it could have happened that way? And so she was prepared to say, sure, I can see how this weapon could have maybe caused a serrated cut at one point, and how this weapon could have. It was all they needed her to say. Can you? Is there any possibility it could be? Doesn't mean that was her expert opinion. It doesn't mean that that's what she thinks happened. Is there any way that you can come on the stage and if we ask you and say, could it have been one weapon? And as I say, if the medical examiner had any integrity, Ann Taylor on cross would have said, do you actually believe it was, or could it have been multiple weapons? And she would have to say, yeah, it could have been multiple weapons as well. And then it's for the jury to decide, was it multiple weapons or was it one weapon?
Here's another very, very curious observation, and it's unavoidably true. there were 2 victims that had minor defensive wounds on them, and
Yes.
2 victims that were tore to pieces. Okay.
Yeah.
And that can't be denied, because that's what this crime scene points out. And that tells a story. Why were 2 of them defensive in nature with stabbings, but not anywhere near to the extent of poor Zaina and
Right.
Kaylee? And why were the Zaina and Kaylee so terribly intense? And that to me suggests that there were more than 2 people in each room, at least 2, if not more. And they were able to keep people subdued, whether it be at knife point, threat of violence.
Right.
And, Ethan didn't get off the bed, not because he was incapable of, because he was afraid for his girl. And she stood frozen, afraid for him. And then once the hammer was dropped on him, she went berserk. And I think the same situation applies to the upstairs bedroom. I don't think Zaina was a witness that was walking through a kitchen. That doesn't fit. Nor does the random blood in the room. The second-story room doesn't fit. That, as Miss Potts pointed out, is like throw-off from a dog shaking itself, because it ends up in spots that are inexplicable. But that explains it. So that's unequal. When you have 2 crime scenes, there's no way in hell you're going to have one person with minor defensive wounds being taken down and another person completely destroyed with one single perpetrator. It's just impossible.
Right. And each one of them, all 4 of them, excuse me, all 4 of them had defensive wounds, guys. Every one of them.
But minor on the 2 that were
right. They were not they were minimal, right?
And we're so I don't know how this kid.
I want to also ask this question. How does this play in? This is a question I've been wrestling with, and I haven't thought it out entirely. I would imagine, I've never been in a situation like this, but I would imagine human nature is, if people come in, let's say multiple people come in and they're wielding knives and they're threatening or whatever, a lot of us will believe, if I just play my cards right, if I'm careful, if I might still walk out of it. It's not until someone gets stabbed that you are going to realize, oh fuck, people are going to die here. Like, before, you have that hope. You have that hope that if I just do what they say, if I just play along and whatever, maybe it's going to be fine. But until you see that there's actual murderous intent going to happen, you don't realize how real it's going to be. And I've always thought that horrific scream you hear at the 2:30 was somebody seeing that this was real. This was really going to happen. That was the moment that someone realized someone actually just got stabbed. And that was that horrific, like, oh my God, like that's actually happening. That's what it feels like to me. And where does that go with that? Like, could people have gone in, and until the killing started, they still didn't quite believe it was really going to happen. But once it did, then things change and people start fighting back, the ones and,
Didn't the audio from earlier in the night portray a situation as you're describing? I mean, if the audio times that are being shown with all of that activity and yelling and back and forth, that's simply what you just described.
Yeah.
The times of the crimes, I think, and I've said this the whole time, that the car and the cell phone is a red herring. They're the rabbit hole they forced us to chase. That is not the target. The target is somewhere completely different than that. The Koberger nonsense, whether he was involved or not, is a diversion to the facts. And so that's what I mean. I don't really get into looking at videos that need to be reflected and twisted and bent. But when somebody plays an audio from a different time, and he can sync these audios up amongst themselves.
Yeah.
With timestamps, you have to say to yourself, either this guy is the best con artist in the world, and kudos to him, because I think what he's showing me is real, right?
Yeah.
Or it is real, and the timestamps on what he's showing us is the actual times of the crime.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm inclined to think the sounds that we hear are the actual crime happening in a 2:30, 3 o'clock window. I think that's when the crimes started. I don't know how long it lasted. I'm inclined to believe cleanup was happening close to when that car leaves at 4 o'clock in the morning. I think the murders were done and cleanup was going on. And then the people left the crime scene after cleaning up. And that might have been one of the vehicles leaving the crime scene. And then what was left is law enforcement had to be, all we have is the exiting vehicle. We've got to make all the murders fit into the exiting vehicle. Well, let's find some footage. Oh, here's a car that could have came. What's that leave us? Oh, a 17-minute window, a 13-minute window. We can make that work. That's what fucking must have happened.
Even the phone calls set that up. The Kaylee phone calls to her boyfriend and Maddie's phone calls to him confirm this time block. I mean, just think about what was going on, what we can confirm as fact, and try to look at it in the context of that was part of the crime. Were there people in that room threatening those girls?
Yeah.
Right. Were these girls was he there? Did he leave? After the 17-minute call, did she start
Right.
texting like to try to get him to come back? I mean,
Right.
there's so many different ways you can interpret that, but
Could be.
that person, I wish I remember the name of the streamer that did the video show comparison of the what a
On what?
fantastic presentation that person did. Yeah, he should be
What-
paid for his work, even if he's conning us. He should be paid for his work.
What was it, Sarge, that you're talking about?
The way he showed that the 2 to 3 o'clock timeline, how all these videos and sounds and screams and struggles showed up not coincidentally, but directly on different cameras at the same
Oh.
timestamp, right? So
Yeah.
he'll say at
Linda Lane footage
2:27 and 12, at 2:27 and 12 seconds, this is what you're going to hear, and then he'll show it on another like the Linda Lane camera.
Yeah.
confirms.
I think that was Mark B, Sarge.
Yeah, that guy did a fantastic. He should be, he should be paid, even if he's
He's
giving us,
pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty
So
good. I
that's
agree.
what got me to thinking a little bit differently about the crime, and I never accepted the idea it was a one-person crime anyway. So I'll shut up.
I don't believe that
no.
it ever could have been. I think anybody that says that it is, I mean, when they did their whole recreation, all that bullshit that they did, right? Well, here's how it can happen in this amount of time, so on and so forth, with just one person.
Well, if
What
you,
they never took into account was anybody defending themselves or dancing around the room and doing this and doing that and moving around the house, and none of
No.
that stuff was taken into account. So therefore, in turn, in my opinion, that's just garbage. It doesn't exist.
No, that
Oh.
you can still accept a one-person killer under that scenario, and I'm going to tell you why. Because they told you only a K-bar was used,
Well, that
Right.
yeah,
right? And so if you reenact this, I want to see someone reenact it and use 5 different weapons, including choking Kaylee, until she suffers the damage that choking does. That isn't a 30 or 40-second choke.
and then
Anybody's
killing
telling you that's out of their mind.
right, and then
Okay.
killing Zdana and Ethan at the same time, simultaneously.
I
Yeah,
think all
it
4 were
doesn't
killed at
match.
the same time and different. Maybe not the exact second. It wasn't timed like you ready, but I think all 4 of these individuals had perpetrators in their rooms,
Multiple people, yeah.
and those crimes took place generally at the same time across the
Yeah,
So-
I tend to believe there were 2 in each room. I think there was 2 killers in the top
It would
room,
make
2
perfect
killers in the
sense.
bottom and the bottom.
But you
room.
have 6 reasons to decide that that's not accurate, Lee.
right,
You have 4
right, sure, yeah,
you have 4 unresolved male DNA samples and 2 hair samples that are different.
yeah.
That's 6 perpetrators.
I think there were
Yeah,
people
but-
outside as well that were kind of keeping their eye on things. So
So you have at least 6 perpetrators within the crime scene that are as of yet unidentified
Well,
and never will be.
Let
Yeah.
me walk that back. Let me walk that back a minute. Was it definitively stated though that the unidentified males or whatever that was found were all different from each other? I mean, they were excluded from being the victims and they were excluded from being Koberger. But did they say that they were excluded from being each other? Because I don't think that's the case, right? I
think they would have clarified that it was single source male DNA that did not match Brian Koberger.
right,
That's not what
Yeah.
they said.
no,
They said there's four. They didn't even examine the samples for identity. So how could they even say that they were the same guy?
No.
You see?
Right.
So they didn't do their due diligence. So what we
Right.
do know for fact is there were 4 unknown male DNAs present and 2 hairs from 2 different people present. That gives us a total of 6 or 3 per room.
Guys, I wanted to address something that relates to the cleanup, right? We've heard at least one expert say that there was a cleanup, right? And that issue has been addressed by others as well. If let's just say Koberger is the cleanup guy, let's go with that for a second. Dylan saw him walk. If it was him walking out, holding something, but she never said anything about somebody. She would have seen or heard somebody cleaning up the crime scene, right? That was never addressed. Oh, I heard somebody moving around outside doing this, doing that. She just said she had looked out the door again, and then there was this guy walking right past her with a balaclava on, and we all know the description. But if Koberger was somehow involved and he was a cleanup guy, there would have been some mention of it. That would be something that's pretty obvious that somebody's doing.
AJ, we have 2 experts telling us it was a cleanup. We have understanding that there was no footprints anywhere on the property, inside or out, that had any kind of DNA or blood connected to it. So we can conclude that a cleanup was done. And
Right.
Dylan,
I agree with that's
So
what
Dylan,
I'm saying.
Dylan wouldn't even be relevant. I mean, she's lied the whole time through here, right? So why doesn't
Right,
she
but
talk
why
about
would
cleanup?
she
Because she
lie?
doesn't
Why
want
would
to
she
admit
lie
it.
about that? Like that's what I'm saying is for it to have been him actually being involved, let's say as a cleanup person or maybe one of a few cleanup people, right? That wouldn't necessitate her lying. What would necessitate her lying is if she either knew the people that were involved
There
or
you
they
go.
were told
Yes.
to tell a certain
Right
story.
there.
She even
Correct.
said that in an interview. Why, why do you think they didn't attack you? I don't know. Maybe they knew me.
Knew
They
me, yeah.
wanted to protect me. Yeah,
Yep.
those were
Yeah,
her
yeah.
own words.
She to me, I think you can make a better circumstantial case to make her as part of the crime than anybody else in this whole scenario. Because
Sure.
she was there before, during, and after. She
Right.
discovered the bodies. She refused to make the discovery herself by calling the police.
Right.
She had someone else do it for her. And every single one of those markers are indicative of somebody's involvement in a crime.
Yeah, and so
right. So you could really make a better circumstantial case of her involvement over Brian.
And she lied about everything.
Yeah.
Right. And I agree. And I agree with everything being said, but one of the things I want to make sure we're clear about, because I've been itchy about where we draw the line of making accusations. I want to say that none of us are saying that Dylan did it or Dylan was involved or Dylan, whatever. What we're saying is those are logical questions law enforcement should have asked questions about, because it doesn't make sense. And what does make sense is that would be a plausible scenario and they didn't rule it out. And that's a problem. You see what I'm saying? The difference, like rather than saying Dylan had to have done it, I think the question is, why didn't law enforcement believe that was a possibility? Because it seems like it's a logical conclusion. So why didn't they ask the right questions? Why did they just blow that off? That's the $1 million question.
They weren't supposed to. They couldn't, because at that point that would have come to the table. Then it would have came forward.
By the way, did you get that poll? Have you already closed that poll, or is that
No,
poll
I
still
was waiting
running?
for you.
Let's go ahead and end the poll and talk about it real quick, and then
And Sarge, to your point, I agree there was a cleanup. There's no, in my mind, there's no question.
Oh yeah, and there's no question in the mind of Brent Turvey. There's no question in the mind of.
I will say this though. I think of everything though, I don't think Brian was involved in the cleanup part of it, because knowing what we know about him and his variational issues that he may have, I think at the very least that's the last thing he was involved in, but he may have been involved in something else. But the cleanup side of it, I'm just going to tell you my opinion. I don't believe was it. His own sister said that she cut herself on a piece of foil over the holidays, and he flipped out over the blood that came out of it. So I can't imagine, dude, being able to clean up a mess like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So that's what I'm saying. You can't say he did or didn't do anything here. That's the
right.
But you can
something else, but that's not it.
Something happened that doesn't really include one individual.
Yeah. I want to get back to that, Dago, and let's read these polls. But I want to get back to what you just said about the paper cut thing, or the knife cut with his sister. Let's get back to that in a second. The poll that I got said, "Do you believe law enforcement manipulated audio video evidence before Ann Taylor got it?" 93% of our audience said, "Yeah, they think they." And look at what distrust people have for law enforcement and the prosecution. That 93% of the people in our channel that watch this. Now, granted, we're a tainted channel, right? You wouldn't be watching this channel if you didn't kind of think this way. Sure. 93% people think that law enforcement manipulated the audio and video before Ann Taylor got it, which would be against the rules of discovery. It's a major problem, but that's what most people think.
Wait do you hear this? Wait do you hear this? Do you believe that the audio and videos have been manipulated by law enforcement? 93% said yes.
Yeah.
7% said no, and 0% said I don't care. There you go. There you go. Absolute distrust, which for good reason.
Lucy, is it accurate when I have stated earlier that Ann Taylor waited a year or more to get that footage from the police because their argument was they couldn't sync the video with the voice? She would know. Somebody that did all these documents would know that for a fact.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that exactly. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I hadn't heard that exactly. So that's an interesting. I'd like to get that clarified as well, and especially if we can get.
It is a good point.
On it. I was just going to say, Dago, just real quickly about because I we've mentioned this before about Brian Koberger was squeamish about blood. I got cut at, during a Christmas thing, and he freaked out about it, didn't want to see it. And I'm thinking to myself, that's interesting. However, he did choose criminology as and right. So how do you reconcile those two? He doesn't like blood. He's going into a place where he's going to have to look. Yeah, that's true. He was special, but your coursework is going to include crime scene photos. Allegedly he fell in love with crime scene because they had a big thing. I don't know if it was DeSales or at the previous college he'd been at, where they had made a murder house and recreated a crime scene. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to do this. I'm changing my major." So
that is a good point.
I need to drop a hammer on that last point that I made, because Lucy is confirming that and showing us that by May of 2024, she'd been provided with the footage. But that means that footage existed for over a year and a half, or at least a year and 5 months. Before she was given that footage. So when I was saying earlier that footage wasn't turned over and they were trying to sync the audio and the video, is accurate.
Yeah, and I can't remember who it was, but an expert in this case said they did the typical thing. Law enforcement typically, or the prosecution typically, withholds discovery as late as they possibly can and dumps it on you at the last minute, and then ask you that stupid question: have you had enough time to review the discovery? They purposely fuck you to try to keep the discovery out of your hands so that you don't have it all, and you got to make a decision without all the facts. Are you going to go to trial or not? I don't know. I don't fucking know what the case is. Well, make a decision, because you've got all the discovery now. So,
yes,
and it shouldn't be allowed. It should not be allowed.
Many
You
things.
have your shit in when you are supposed to have it in, or guess what? It doesn't get in. That should be as
well. It's interesting because
that's up to the defense to get that solution.
Well, but here's the thing, Sarge, and you know this because you called this out too. One point that there were deadlines set for different things. Okay, and awesome as it is, great. You set deadlines, and here, if you didn't notice it, folks, I think most of us did, but the prosecution had many deadlines set that they just didn't seem to meet. But I'll be damned if the defense didn't meet all their deadlines. And it was never called out by the judge. So you tell me what's going on with that, okay? They should have all been enforced. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robin.
No, I was just going to say, neither judge called it out. Neither judge held their feet to the fire and said, guess what? You didn't have this in here before the deadline. It's out. It doesn't get in because you didn't do what I told you to do, damn it.
That should have happened. It should have happened, and it didn't. That's the problem.
No.
I suspect it would have had it stayed in Judge's court. I think
I agree.
A foul. That was an inadvertent foul by Ann to go that early with it. And she should have concentrated solely on discovery and motions. And that motion to shift, I think, was just way too premature.
I think Ann underestimated the level of bullshit that was happening with this, possibly that if they changed venues, got underneath a different situation, a different area, that things would have went better for her, when in all reality, that was the absolute worst thing she could have done, in my opinion. I'll just say that, because I think Triple J saw certain things going on, and I think at some point, I think he was fed with it, completely fed up with it, and I think that's why he didn't follow the case too. It's just my opinion. But I go back to this hearing every time, and I think you were actually with us the day that we watched the hearing, Sarge. When she pointed out the fact that the prosecution was just doing a whole bunch of stupid shit with them, and she said, "I've been having problems getting this, getting that, having this done, dealing with this, so on and so forth." She goes, I don't think you understand to what level, Your Honor. And he said, "No, Miss Taylor, I do understand. I do see it, and I feel for you." And I was just like, wait a minute. Wow. Okay, so if you're seeing this, that's a problem there. And then they changed venues. And then from that point forward, it was just all bullshit. He didn't ever, me and you even talked about this one time, Sarge, that you thought that he was going to go for certain things and allow for certain things. And I said, I didn't think so. And at that point, nothing. I mean, he did make it look good in some aspects. Hitler did, but I think it's because he had to make it look good. But it was obvious to me that he was working with the prosecution, is how I saw it. So,
well, I do agree with that. And his rulings at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so his rulings at the end, especially when it came to multiple perpetrators or alternate perpetrators, and his standard that he placed on her was the standard under which prosecution needs to operate, not the defense. It's not my job to solve your crime. It's my job to defend my client. And part of that
Absolutely.
defense includes not just alternative perpetrators, but a crime scene that screams multiple perpetrators.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need not name them. She doesn't need to name them.
No,
Right. Right.
not her job to
Exactly.
do that.
That was the worst ruling I've ever seen in a court.
I agree.
Yes.
Standard he held her to on alternative
Especially with the damn car comment. Holy shit. He should have been. That's insane to me. I
was
will
held-
never get over that.
I've said this before. She was held to a higher standard to bring
Yes.
in an alternate
Yes.
suspect than it was for Koberger to get accused of it in the first place.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, it
I don't-
it almost seems like there was an operation.
You're
They were
killing
playing
me.
Clue.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I agree with that whole higher thing that you just said because it was. I can't even explain like the feeling I had when I watched that all go down. I just was like, what just happened, and how did this just, and how has nobody looked at that and said that's a problem and that should have never happened, but it's been completely avoided and ignored. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which still bothers me as to why the DOJ never responded to my letter. Honest to God, I mean, I know I'm nobody, but there wasn't even
You're an
all I
American.
got was we received your email and we will look into it. Basically, is what I got. That was it. Nothing
You're
more.
an American. Also, whatever happened with the FBI approaching their DNA expert? We never really got a satisfactory explanation of how the prosecutor could become the chief law enforcement officer of the FBI and send their agents to her home.
Thank
Under what
you.
pretense did Bill Thompson have the authority to do such a thing? And why wasn't that actually hashed out in a hearing that was public? That just is the most outrageous thing.
It sure
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Sure is. He got mad about the he pretended to act like he was mad, I'll say, at least about the whole Dateline leak and started an investigation, but you're not going to point out that your prosecutor sent somebody to, or sent the feds to one of the defense witnesses' house, and the next thing you know, she retracts statements and disappears. That's a problem, you guys. And how did nobody notice that or point that out? The judge alone should have said, no. That's a big, big problem, and should have shut everything down right there. And it was never even spoke about, never brought up, never even remotely remembered. If I remember right, nobody said a word about it. That's insane. That is insane.
No warrant should ever have been issued on an individual where your argument is it's your understanding that thieves turn their phones off to master location. That is not an accusation towards any individual anywhere on the planet. And it's not something to be used with an American that is not a criminal. Someone like me with a criminal past and a felony conviction, yes, that would suffice. You can even entrap me in crimes. That's legal. But you can't do that to an American citizen that has no history of that. And to use an argument of your experience is not evidence of a crime. You have no way to show he turned his phone off. You have no way to show that that's his car. It's similar. That is not evidence against an American citizen. Our justice system is supposed to be better than that. In order to steal your freedom and lock you in a cage, there's a standard that has to be met. And Idaho, in no shape or form, even looks to meet those standards. They just want to get these things cleaned up, move on to the next one.
Brush it under the rug and move on. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me see. I was looking at something in the chat. There was something else I was going to say in relation to close to that, and I completely lost my thought process. Damn it. Oh, that was what. Yeah, that's another point I was going to make too. That all that stuff is still being talked about, even though it has been completely shut down, backpedaled, locked out by the most important people in the case. The prosecutor and the lead investigators have shut all of that bullshit down about the phone being turned off and the stalking and this and that and everything else. And when you watch the Gonsalves interviews, that's all that is thrown out. That is all they talk about people being stalked and about his phone being turned off and about this, that, and everything else being shut. How is that even? I want to know how is that legal when it's not true fact? And it's been stated that it's not true fact. And one of the things that even points to that, makes it even worse for me, is that Bill Thompson stood up and threw one of his temper tantrums, or pretended to, as I'll call it. Okay, I think he was acting for that, but and said that that there was no stalking done, and you saying that, and blah 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 blah, and that whole fit that he threw over that bullshit when they used every ounce of the the public doing what they did, the propaganda with that information to convict this man because they didn't do it in the court.
Bill Thompson, when he made that statement, confirms what I'm trying to point out about the probable cause affidavit.
Right.
There is no evidence of anything, and lack of evidence is not evidence, as some people would propose. In order for me to deny you your freedom in the United States of America, there has to be a fact, and there is latitude. It can be what they call hearsay information. Somebody could claim they saw you do something. That is enough to initiate an arrest. Okay? There is none of that in this case. None. Zero. Absolutely none. No evidence placing that young man anywhere near that house. Only similarities and assumptions. And I can't even imagine. I wish they'd do that to me. I'd be a rich man.
Well, what just happened with the Alec Murdaugh situation, okay? He just got a new trial, if everybody remembers. And I believe it was because I didn't follow that part of it a lot, but it was the clerk had done a whole bunch of bullshit and screwed some shit up. Now, that in turn is what got that turned over, if I'm right. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many things can we count that was done during the hearings here? I know it wasn't a trial, but during the hearings by the prosecution, the judge, and other people in this case that should have, in our opinions, probably had this thing tossed or overturned, in my opinion, because I can count at least one hand full of shit.
There's tons. Yeah, there's
a
tons.
misrepresentation to the grand jury.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Those are misrepresentation, absolutely.
Yep. Those are criminal acts. You can indict a ham sandwich, okay, but even a grand jury would want to see a fact placing you there.
Exactly.
It's not enough to say the perpetrator was black and so are you. Okay, those days are supposed to be gone.
Right.
Your car is white, so it must be you.
Right.
Thank you. And correct me if I'm wrong, Sarge, but did the grand jury or did they not question multiple things and say, wait, that's not enough? Right. Like there was at least 6 of them, if I'm correct, that said, we need more information at this point, and it was never given to them. They just were shut up and sit down, and that's enough. You know what I mean? So that too
system is about results. It's not about truth, and it's not about justice. And we on this side of the aisle that question stuff, not because we're pro-burgers, but because we see a government that's trampling the Constitution and running over people, and then stopping to back over them and run them over again. And we're just fed up with that. We don't want that as a part of our country. Not for Brian Kohlberger, and not for Steve Goncalves, not for his poor children.
Yeah.
Right.
None of it.
And even if this kid did do it, the work that they put in to getting that plea out of him is the most backward, criminal, corrupt nonsense.
And it's been stated by many, many people now. Cy Ray, and I don't care what people think. They're still speaking out on this at this point. Cy Ray has come forward. Dr. Turvey has come forward. Chris Whitcomb has come forward. Chris Holland has come forward. All these people are saying the same thing. Gabriela Vargas was going to say some of the same things. Most of these experts were saying something is not right here. Something is wrong. You need to take a look at this. And every one of them, some of them are doing it in a different fashion, but if not, they were shut down. That's the other side to it. So that's the biggest thing right there that people need to notice, that if this was cut and dry and black and white, none of that would have happened. None of it would have happened. There was jury tampering in every aspect as well. So
we see this in so many cases across the country. Now I think people can't put their finger on what may bother them in this case. And it literally, the only thing that bothers you in this case, folks, is that you see that what the government did here is wrong.
Yes.
That even if this is the perpetrator of the crime, that is not how justice is served. Right? That's not what we were taught. That's not what we were seeing on TV. It's just not the way it's supposed to work, man.
I ask all the time, does the end justify the means? No. If you have to get the killer illegally, then the fucking killer should walk. You should not be able to break the law in order to uphold the law. That's hypocritical. You can't break the law.
You might as well be back in the Wild West.
Especially in a capital case.
This is worse than the Wild West, what we see now with 97% people being pled out.
Right. And that's the thing, too. I'm going to throw that back out there. I didn't mean to interrupt if I did, but a capital case, in my opinion, you should never allow a plea deal in a capital case. I'm sorry. There's four homicides, and you're going to throw a plea deal in the middle of that? That's bullshit to me. It should never be allowed. Well, not when you have the death penalty on the table.
In the beginning, when I got involved with the PCA, that's what brought me into this case. I said, I hope this guy did it and he gets acquitted. Because of the work these people are doing. It's one thing to find the perpetrator. But there's a process in this, and this is what it is to be an American. The reason that makes us supposed to set us apart is that we're all supposed to be doing things under the guise of freedom. And Brian Koberger is an American citizen that has the same right to freedom as everybody else in this country. And so if you're going to take and throw him in a cage, or you in a cage, or your kid in a cage, we want to see a process that's dedicated to not just the truth, but to the system that's in place working. Not working with shortcuts, not working with lies and omissions, but working because you did the job that was required to get to your result. Right? Anybody can throw a nail into something, but are you putting the nail in the right place? Are you doing it the right way? You don't want your house to collapse on you. Sorry.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. I want to bring up this because I didn't make room for it in the other video, and I want to see if we can take a few minutes for it. One of the things that stunned me is the Gonzalez's, when they were going after WSU, they're still pushing the narrative that Brian Koberger was stalking the girls, even though Bill Thompson flat out said there's no evidence of stalking at all, and repeatedly said that. But the lawsuit that the Gonzalez's have filed against WSU said we know he was stalking the girls. And here's the part that I want to just throw out there for thought. Here's what Steve Gonzalez said on the floor at CrimeCon when I was there. He said they didn't want to admit they know Koberger stalked the girls 23 times. That number is specifically the number they said, the number of times that Koberger's phone pinged off the cell tower that services the house at 112. So if that's the entire fucking basis of Steve Gonzalez's proof that he was stalking the girls is the 23 times that he pinged off the cell tower, they tried to explain to him that meant nothing. And yet it feels to me that that's the basis of their argument. You know, he was stalking the girls because his phone pinged off the cell tower. And because I kept thinking, how can they still maintain the stalking thing? He says
Exactly.
You guys knew damn well he was stalking the girls. 23 times he stalked them. Dude, like, is that really the basis of your stalking charge against Koberger, that his phone touched a cell tower in the area, like 30,000 other phones in the area touched that cell phone?
Point out, Lee, that may be the base of his case, but it's deficient on fact. And in this point, that piece of information that he's now using to sue wouldn't be available had they not charged this gentleman with a crime. In other words, there was no way prior for the schools or anybody to be aware of his behavior.
Correct.
Until.
No.
Right. And so, in other words, Steve's case has no merit. And if that's what he's arguing, that argument is dead on arrival because that information only was obtained after the murders. There was no way for WSU. There was no way for his neighbor. There was no way for the mouse in his car to know what he was doing.
Yes,
Brian.
You're not stalking. You can't stalk somebody at 40 miles an hour when you're driving by, folks, because that's all it was. And that's one thing they refuse to point out to you.
Well, and you only know that he was there 23 times because he was arrested for the crime. So
how
would the college know before the crime he was stalking? That's what Steve's trying to argue. They should have known beforehand. Well, were they surveilling everybody's phone? I mean, isn't this America, Steve? How would they possibly have that data available to them?
That's why that statement is so dumb.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
Ridiculous case. He's just doing it to try to extract money out of these people.
And the question becomes, is, are they going to win? Are they, like typically happens in America, you don't go to trial, you just settle for amount. So will WSU settle for some kind of undisclosed amount and pay the family off because it's cheaper to pay them off than it is to fight it out in court?
Because you don't want the public image that you allowed stalking to take place.
Right.
But also, if they're stupid though, if they do settle, because it's going to be a thing. Yeah.
It'll look like they gave up.
Yeah. No, they'll settle taking no responsibility. They'll settle with the agreement will end up. Is it all?
Of course.
Right.
Yeah. We acknowledge no guilt whatsoever. We're just paying them off to shut them the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's cheaper to shut them up.
I still think they're stupid because it could still backfire on them in the fact that, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't send our kid there either. Because they allowed some guy to continue working there even after he had 13 complaints lodged against him and everything else. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for WSU. But if I was WSU, I'd take it to freaking court.
I agree.
You're principled, Robin, and that's where most of us don't understand that because we're principled, we don't matter.
Yeah. I know.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this crazy conspiracy. This is a JJ kind of question. Let me ask you this crazy conspiracy. Is the WSU lawsuit only for the purpose of keeping things gagged until all the new laws go in place about not seeing crime scene photos and whatever, because they can argue, hey, there's ongoing litigation. We can't release all the files because there's this other lawsuit. And all the lawsuit is a delay tactic to get everything past the July date when nobody's allowed to get autopsy photos and nobody's allowed to get crime scene photos. Is it just simply for that matter, just to keep everything gagged for a little while longer?
As long as the law is retroactive.
Right. I think it is. I think it is retroactive.
It's a great observation. I mean, you can't really argue with that reasoning there, Devil.
Sucks.
Keep stomping on that Constitution.
I know. We're fucking. I mean, I hate to be on a soapbox, but we're losing the illusion that we had that we had this great system. Our system's been broken for a very long time. I don't know that it ever was.
You just said it.
The illusion yes. that we had a great system, and it's starting to become clear we don't. However,
right.
Well, it's like that's how you manufacture consent for giving up rights. Is if you can get enough people to go along with certain policies or legislation that erodes people's rights, then they basically create a scenario, or even if it's manufactured, they get enough people that'll just go, yeah, that makes sense. Flock cameras everywhere, a DNA database. And then if they have a critical mass of people that will go along with it, then they don't care about what the other more dissident types think or feel about it. They just need to get a critical mass of people to go along with it.
And the sad thing is
9/11 ushered in a surveillance system and privacy of which that were never supposed to exist in this nation.
Right. And this is just another jumping off point with this to more. There's more going to come now because everybody's seen this has gone through. Great. We'll use this situation and even take more away from them. So it's coming. Don't doubt it. It's coming. Right. This is just one scenario.
Well, it's been.
Well, look, this has been a great discussion. I want to kind of wrap up at this point, unless you guys have some parting thoughts or a last minute question. And I want to give a couple closing thoughts before we close, just for those who are interested, because it's Friday night and I'm kind of in the mood for it. I do have an alternate channel where I talk about things that I wouldn't talk about here. That's the Devil's Advocates Beyond. I'll put a link in here for the show if you're into some of the fringe stuff, more conspiracy. We'll talk crazy conspiracy if you want over there, and also paranormal and all this kind of stuff. It's a Friday night, so I figured I'd take it off the rails and we won't do it here. But so check that out if you want to. Please do. In fact, I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers over there so I can get some members only content going over there on that channel, and we're really close, so I need some little help with that. So if you guys do nothing else, come check it out for a minute, subscribe to the channel. That'd be great. You guys have any last parting thoughts you want to share for the evening on what we've been talking about?
I real quick will just say thanks, Sarge, for joining us. It's always a great conversation when you do. And thank you, Robin, Lee, and JJ as well. This has been another great conversation tonight. I very much enjoyed it, and always look forward to these conversations. Thank you, mods, and everybody else that joined us as well tonight. Always appreciate all of you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. JJ, Robin, Sergeant Friday, you guys got any parting thoughts?
Should I do a public service announcement? No, I won't. I won't do it. But thank you, everybody. It was very interesting. Thanks, Sarge, for coming up. It was a good discussion. Friday nights are always interesting, because you can throw different ideas around. People seem to be in the mood for that. So
yeah, for sure.
And I'll be on the Beyond stream later, so
that'd be great. I'd love that. Oh, and Dago
thank
too.
You to the denizens,
I'll be there
meatballs,
too.
the awesome mods, and of course all the advocates.
Yeah, awesome. And Sergeant Friday, thank you, man. You're I dig your vibe. I love listening to you talk. You always have great thoughts, great questions. You articulate yourself super well. So very cool. Love always having you on the show. Thank you so much. You got any parting thoughts at all before?
Well, I just wanted to say that I'm trying to fade in some more patience and in my discussion. That's why I try to put them out there as topics. and I appreciate the people that let me come up on their streams and have the patience.
Always, Sarge. Always.
That I have, and it helps me think. You help me connect dots on things that we haven't even talked about tonight. It'll hit me tomorrow. So one of the reasons why I enjoy talking about anything of interest, whether it be science, politics, or this. You know.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me here, and you're all great people, Robin. I swear to God that I'm not going to come at you with a bat. That was just an example. JJ, you're very
That's
clever
okay.
guy.
Bring it on, Sarge. Bring it on.
JJ, do your streaming whenever you're comfortable doing it. It'll work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll get it dialed in.
And
Thanks,
Lee.
Sarge.
Thanks, Dago.
Always.
Robin, do you have any parting thoughts?
Just these conversations are amazing. The chat was lit up. I love the fact that our chats on both channels get so fired up right along with us. And so thank you guys so much
Yes.
for just coming out and for all your participation. And you guys are just amazing. So we would be nowhere without you. So thank you.
Well, good night.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And again, one more time,
Sarge.
we'll post the link. Please consider joining. Are you coming, Robin, to the alt show or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So come join Robin, Dago, JJ, and myself for some Devil's Advocates Beyond show where we talk about maybe UFOs, paranormal, esoteric shit, and conspiracy theories like the Vegas shooting and stuff like that. So check that out later. In the meantime, see you all tomorrow night, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.
Have a great night,
All right.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
You guys are amazing.